Well, Sam, my friend, good to see you
Hey, David.
again. Always enjoy having these chats with you. We recently have been talking a little bit about newsletters. This is one of those topics. I always find it interesting when I talk to music school owners because it is a little bit of an old-fashioned idea, right? Like newsletters have been around for a long time, and I think sometimes people fall under the assumption that is it really worth the time to send out a newsletter? Like, why should I send out a newsletter? There are people that are coming to your school every single week. You have their attention, you have their trust. And if you aren't communicating with them regularly, then it's really a missed opportunity. It's a missed opportunity to continue to build trust, to sell them new potential programs, and to create sort of an ongoing conversation, which is incredibly valuable for your student retention, for future, like I said, upgrading them, selling them on something else. So, can you talk a little bit about what your experience has been just with newsletters in general, like how you utilize them in your school?
Yeah, that's a great point, and I think also we're gonna deep dive on all these topics, but I think also something that's important for people listening, that if you're not doing a newsletter, it's actually very easy to do, right? So if there's a whole bunch of different type of marketing or community building activities, or we're going to talk about all the values, but newsletter is actually a pretty low hanging fruit. It's a pretty easy one to do. So if you got to start somewhere, start with that. You can, once you know how to do it, it's pretty easy to do. You can even train your front desk admin to do it on a monthly or every couple of weeks. So I would say if you're not doing a lot in marketing and you feel like I should be doing more, and you're not doing a newsletter, you should totally start with that. So actually at my school, although I don't think we're great in marketing in general, but we've actually had news stuff for a long time. Actually, even my wife, before she met me, she was already doing newsletter and doing it on a regular basis. And so I think, newsletters are basically an email you send to your customers on a regular basis, right? Some updates about your school, right? I guess the first question is, how often should you send it to? Some people argue should be every month, every other month. I think monthly is a good cadence. And if you feel like you have too much information, maybe split it into two newsletters, like every 2 weeks. You could do every week, but I think that might be a little bit too overwhelming, right? So you don't want to send too many emails, right? And you might also send other promotions or other announcements, like your recital announcements, or things that are only sent to your actual students, right? So I think a good cadence is that let's start monthly. So why send newsletter? First, I think it's a good way to acquire customers, right? So you're going to have people that is in your mailing list, and we'll talk a little bit about how you grow that mailing list, how you manage the mailing list over time. But you're gonna have that mailing list of prospects that maybe you got at a fair, or people that filled your lead capture form on your website, or people that came maybe for a trial but never signed up, right? Or people that were your students but maybe they have siblings that will want to sign up for lessons at some point, right? So you're gonna have this mailing list of people.
Yeah, I think that's an interesting point. A newsletter is not just something that you send your current students, right? Like, because it is an actual marketing piece, not just for your current students. And believe it or not, we can market to our current students. If that sounds weird, then just think of it this way: little Sally has a brother, right? And maybe mom doesn't realize that you offer guitar lessons and piano lessons, right? So now you send an ad to little Sally's mom, who's already an active student, and now little Sally's brother signs up, and boom, you've got another student, even though you marketed to a current family. So definitely you can market to your active current students.
Even referrals, right? Imagine you're at a school event and you're talking to other moms or other dads, and you want to say, oh, my kid is going to XYZ school. It's great. You're not going to have the website of the top of your mind. You're just going to check your phone and search Opus One and forward the last email you get from that school, right? So you're gonna having that regular email in your mailbox is also a good way for people to forward it to their friends if they want to join the same group class that you may be joining.
Yeah, referrals are incredibly powerful, and we do see that a lot too, right? Like so parents that love the school, they're going to talk to their friends at school,
Yeah.
but that list so really with newsletters, you're really breaking it into three different lists. You have the active families, then you have the prospect families, right? So that's the families that have raised their hand at some point in the past and wanted to get more information. Maybe you talked to them on the phone, maybe you sent them a message, whatever, or maybe they walked into your school, but they didn't actually sign up. So those people are hanging out there And that's a list that you want to send this newsletter to, so you can stay in communication with that list. But then the third list are people that already took lessons with you in the past, but now no longer take lessons with you, right? So those are your former students. So we have our active students, our prospect students, and our former students. All
Yeah.
of those people should be getting the newsletter
Yeah.
every single month, right?
Exactly, right? And so it's a great tool to acquire new customers or to upsell existing ones. So we'll talk a little bit about upsell, because you can also put links and promote your classes and things like that. And I think something people don't realize is that these are not people that never wanted to hear from you in the first place. They're people that express some interest in your school one way or another, right? So you're not bothering them. They actually gave you that email address, and they sometime actually look for that next fall group class schedule that needs to that they've been waiting for to sign up their younger kid, right? So they give you that email, and very often, they're waiting for fall or a certain time of the year to enroll their kids, and they want to see that email and see what's your schedule, what are the new group classes or new program or new teachers you may have. So it's very, very important tool to acquire new customers, to upsell existing ones, to drive referrals, as we just mentioned, right? So make it easy for somebody to forward that email to their friends. And retention, right? At the end of the day, when we talk about retention or community building, you're building a community. You tell stories about your students, right? It's not just about selling them a class. It's not just about announcing an upcoming recital. It's also like telling great stories that people get excited about. Along the years, we have all these beautiful stories about kids that had great achievements. And we should tell the stories, right? At the end of the day, that's why we're doing this. So we want to talk about the students that are doing great, right?
I think there's also something about newsletters being an accepted form of communication, right? Mm-hmm. Like, people know when you say a newsletter, everybody knows what you're talking about, right? Like, this isn't old, not old in the bad sense, but just maybe a better way of saying it is it's a trusted form of communication. Right. It's like if I were to say I'm going to send you an email, you know what that is. An email is something that, is commonly used. A newsletter is something when somebody gets a newsletter from a company they recognize, or better yet, in this case, a company that they've done business with or currently doing business with, then that is an understood way of communicating. And so they're going to consume that information more easily because it's not some foreign way of communicating. I think that bears noting because I think that when you send communication to these people, right, these three lists that we talked about, then people are they're going to immediately wonder, why should I open this email? Why should I read this information? Right? But a newsletter is actually a trusted form of communication. So yeah. I think that's really important. So I love the points that you're making here, Sam, because you're right. Retention, as your school grows, retention becomes literally the most important piece of your business. We use newsletters as a way of communicating. And when we're talking about keeping students around, then I think that the reason it works, and it might not just be this obvious point, but I do want to make it I think when you're in the middle of a conversation with somebody, let's say you were standing and we're just having a conversation. You're not just going to turn around and just walk away, right? And just go out of the room, unless you're just being a jerk and you're really upset or whatever. But most people, right? If I'm in a ongoing conversation with you, we're just going to keep having the conversation. Now, when the conversation ends and I stop talking to you or you stop talking to me, then that leaves an opening for either one of us to exit that conversation and to walk away. At that point, you can walk away, right? And I think newsletters kind of do that. I think when we send our families these ongoing newsletters, we're telling stories. I love what you said, that telling inspirational stories, sharing what's going on in the school, talking to them, having a conversation with them, it actually keeps them engaged and ultimately keeps them coming back. I think it's a great retention tool.
Yeah. Imagine you have mom and dad. Maybe mom is the one taking the kids to the activities every week, so she knows exactly which school you're going to, but maybe dad forgot the name of the school, right? But if dad gets your email on a regular basis, sees it on your phone, oh yeah, Opus One, my kid goes to Opus One, it stays in their mind, right? So when they talk to other parents, oh yeah, my kid goes to Opus One. It's not like my kid goes to this music school somewhere in Montreal, I forgot the name. You're constantly communicating with them, right? They're part of the community. Yeah. There's this. So if we talk about building community and building culture, and just showing what your school is all about with these announcements, these events. We're going to talk about a bunch of different things you can talk about in your newsletter. You're still top of mind of your customers and potential, as we said earlier, prospect. On a monthly basis, you remind them that you're there, right? So they might see your ads as well, but they're just going to see your newsletter. And one thing that we haven't talked about is sometimes I've seen people, and sometimes even people in my own team saying like, oh, we should not send too many newsletters. People are going to get upset. I mean, people get a lot of emails, right? That's true. Once a month or twice a month is not too much, right? And at the end of the day, if somebody really doesn't want them, they just unsubscribe. So imagine that in your mailing list, you have mom and dad, and maybe dad doesn't want to receive those emails anymore. It's fine. It's going to unsubscribe. Another point I want to make, which I've seen some people sometimes struggle a little bit, is well, if I send newsletter to people, they're going to unsubscribe, and then they're not going to receive important emails I might send them, right? Well, if you're using the proper software, you're going to have what I call operational emails. So a recital is coming, sign up, or your lesson reminders, all of these emails, you're going to receive them anyway. So you can unsubscribe from marketing emails because you don't want to receive announcements and things like that. I think you can separate your operational emails that your platform is going to send, like lesson reminders or billing reminders or your receipts, all these important email that you're still going to receive because you're a customer of the business, if you are, and marketing emails that are separate, right? So sending people marketing email and having them potentially unsubscribe, it's not the end of the world.
Hopefully the platform that you're using, whether it's email platform, CRM, whatever, can actually separate those out where you can have just marketing emails that you're sending on. No, I mean, I think that's a great point.
And I will talk about the tools because, I mean, you can use MailChimp, you can use Active Contact, you can use Opus One IO Plus, obviously. But if you just do it in let's say you just do a mass email, obviously don't put people in CC. That's the worst thing to do. At the very least, that's even worse. But you have to, if you're sending newsletter, do it the proper way because they need to have an unsubscribe link. They are technically promotional emails, right? Even if you're announcing your recital, things like that. So you have to be careful and use the proper software because there is regulations. And there is best practices, and if you send people email and they don't have a way to unsubscribe, they're gonna get really pissed off. That's something you don't want, right? So we'll talk about the tools and how to set up a newsletter, all of that in a few minutes. But so going back to community building and building culture and having a constant conversation with your customers is super important. It really keeps that relationship going. Keeps that sense of belonging to that community. Oh, my kid goes to that school. I know it. I remember it. I see their updates on a regular basis, and I actually enjoy seeing their updates. I'm aware of the next holiday party coming up. I'm aware of the next recital, and I see these great stories about students that have achieved amazing things thanks to their musical education at Opus One Music Studio, for example, right? So these are great stories that help people stay, connected to your business. And something that you and I have talked many times is music schools sometimes struggle with the fact that there is this strong bond that it's inevitable between the student and the teacher, right? And sometimes it becomes too much. It's we like that teacher, but we don't know anything about the school, right? So newsletter is one of the tools where you bring some level of value about your school, and you keep that connection between the school and the parent and the student, not just that bond between the teacher and the student, right? So obviously there's other things, recitals and a lot of other things, but we're talking about building community, building culture beyond just that relationship between the student and the teacher, which is gonna be there no matter what. That's a good thing, but you want to have a relationship with your customer, right? And you don't want to just be, oh no, we know about John, but we don't know the name of the school.
No, I think it's true. I think it's true because at the end of the day, what we're trying to do is we're trying to create community and we're trying to keep our students around because the longer they stay around, the more benefit they're going to get from their experience at the school. And so I think that overall, we can make a pretty good case here why newsletters are important and why they have value. And I think most people listening to this would probably agree, but I do think there's some people that feel like it's an outdated form of communication. And that, I think, is a mistake. I think you're missing, I think it's like you said at the beginning, I think it's like low-hanging fruit. And so if you're not taking advantage of that, then you're missing, it's like you're leaving money on the table. Honestly, you are. You're leaving money on the table. And you're making it harder for yourself to have that kind of that bond, like you said, that bond of communication between the school and the parent, the families.
And I want to add one more thing that's interesting. If you think about it, You know how sometimes when somebody only talks to you when they need something from you, it's annoying, right? But think of the newsletter as a way to constantly give updates and news about your community and your school to parents. Obviously, you're going to have promotions and new classes and call to actions and stuff like that. But because I've had school tell me like, well, we don't do newsletter, but every 6 months we will send all our customers an email to sign up. You're basically only talking to your customers when you need something from them, right? When you basically selling them something. That's not very nice, right? You want to have that constant, nice communication with you. It's not all about signing up or buying something. It's about, here is what's going in the community. Here's what's going on at Opus One. Here is all these events that we have and great stories that we have, and this teacher spotlight and student spotlight and this and that. And yeah, occasionally we have something for you to buy, obviously, because we're still a business after all. But we're not just hitting you when we need money or when we need you to sign up, right? I think there's also that aspect that comes into play where you want to have that regular touch point with your customers. That's not just about selling them something.
Who likes the guy that every time you see him, he comes up to you and he wants something from you? Like, who likes that guy?
And it's only when they want something from you that they come see you, right?
It's the only time they ever talk to you. Otherwise, they just ignore you, right? They're doing their own thing. And then he comes up and is like, okay, I wonder what he wants now, right? Like, I wonder what he's going to ask for now.
Yeah.
Or you see that, too, with money, right? Like, the only time, I hate to say it, but sometimes my kids, but, like, the only time they want to come and talk to me, it's like, oh, okay, well, I know, but what's the ask now, right? And so you don't want to be that way with your customers. You want to have that ongoing conversation and have it be to where every time you send like the newsletter or the communication, they actually want to open it because you provide value and you're not always asking for something in return. I think that's a great point. That's a really good point.
I think when you think about modern marketing, right, it's not about just hitting people to sell them something. It's provide them value, right? And it could be as simple as an update about your school, an upcoming recital, an event, or promotion, or just some practice tips, right? Like some FAQ that you hear parents asking on a regular basis. My kid doesn't want to practice anymore. What should I do, right? Maybe record one of your teacher for 5 minutes saying, hey, here's a few tips you can use at home to get your child to practice on a regular basis or get them excited about classical music or whatever you're trying to promote. So it's about providing value, keeping that communication going with the parent, providing value and not just hitting them up for money or for selling them something when you need them.
Yeah.
Right?
No, all really good points. So how do we, Sam, at this point? So like, okay, so if you're watching this or listening to this and you're thinking, okay, I'm sold. Like I want to do a newsletter in my school, or maybe you're thinking, well, that sounds great for you, but how do I do that? Running a school, trying to keep the lights on, trying to keep everything going with the scheduling and the parents and the communication and everything. How am I going to then add another thing to my already busy day?
So I would say, I'll show a couple of examples of newsletters and I'll just show you how to create one. I would say first, put it in your routine, like force yourself to have a cadence. Maybe start monthly, right? And force yourself to have a monthly newsletter. Every month you're going to send something. And maybe for the first couple of weeks of the month, you write down ideas. And you're going to see then it's become so easy to do it on a regular basis. There's so much stuff to start to talk about that you're going to have it ready. Do it yourself at first. You're the business owner. And then train maybe your admin staff to own it and do it on a regular basis. And maybe send them 5 bullet points. Okay, this month we're going to talk about upcoming recital. We have this new teacher. Here is a feel-good story. Here is a practice tip. And these are the 4 or 5 bullet points that we have this month. So force yourself to have a cadence. Force yourself to do it, even if it might feel a little bit uncomfortable at first. Get the right software. You can use a MailChimp, ActiveCampaign. There's multiple software out there. They're easy. You just Google newsletter. If you're using Opus One, you can use Opus One IO Plus. It's embedded into it, and we'll talk about the benefits of that. And set up a template, right? You're going to have usually the same logo, same headline, a photo, 4 or 5 topics you're going to talk about, and a footer, right? So I'm going to show that in a minute on how you set that up. So have that template ready and just reuse it and just change a few things, and we'll look at some examples. And the other thing that I want to talk about before we dive into creating one is how do you maintain that mailing list? We talked a little bit about that earlier. How do you get that list of people? And when you start from scratch, that happens. There are different strategies, right? My recommendation, obviously, is to use Opus One IO with Opus One IO Plus, because you're going to have all your clients, your old clients, your current clients, your prospect, all in one place. And as you gather people information through a lead capture form, as you have people that have trial with you, you accumulate this database of customers, right, in your community. My school now is 15,000. I mean, we've been in business for a while now. But you're gonna have a tool where you're gonna have lead capture, and you want to keep that up to date, right? So that's why, again, it's great to do it in Opus One IO, because you have all your prospect, all your old students, all your current students in one place. You can do that also with a MailChimp or some other tool, but you're going to have to synchronize that with your scheduling or booking application, and maybe your marketing software and your SMS or email platform, all of that. Keeping that in sync is very complicated, and sometimes you lose. I mean, we used to have a newsletter on MailChimp, and sometimes we made a mistake and we lost our mailing list, and we had to recreate it. That happened a long time ago. These things happen. So having it in one place, right? So setting up that cadence, setting up that template, always writing down a few bullet points, maintaining that mailing list in the proper software, and then over time making it like a regular thing that's just part of your school. Every month, and then maybe twice a month if you have a lot of content, and just train your front desk admin to do it. I mean, you're going to find a lot of people now that apply at your school to do administrative jobs, and they've used MailChimp before, they've used Constant Contact or ActiveCampaign, right? So a lot of time you'll find people who've done this before. So let me show you a couple of examples, and I'm sure you have plenty of examples of your own at your own school where you had some cool stuff to share in your newsletter. I want to show a couple of examples from my school. So these are probably the last 2 or 3 newsletters that we sent. So I have here the September 2025 that we just sent. I have here August. We actually did 2 a month at my school right now. So these are examples. So let's take a look at a couple. So typically, you're going to have your logo prominently. Ours is a little bit big here. You can make it a little bit smaller, but you want your branding to be front and foremost. You may have a tagline, maybe a header. So if it's a September newsletter, if they have important announcement or a fall program or whatever, something. And also, I want to show also that the subject of your newsletter is also important. You're going to have something engaging. This is maybe a little bit controversial, maybe not everybody agrees with me. I like to have a little emoji, not too much, in the subject, because those tend to stand out when people look at your emails. Having a little emoji with a music note or a piano or a little thing without doing it too much has shown some results for me. Some people might disagree on that. So set up your subject strategically, right, about what you're going to talk about. And don't just call it newsletter, right? Imagine if you receive like 20 newsletters a month and they all call it newsletter, that's useless, right? So you can call it fall group classes, or we have arts and wine festival coming up, or something fun and engaging. So here's a few examples. This is a template that we sent. So this one already sent. So I'll show how to edit it. Also keep in mind that when you do your newsletter, I don't know exactly the numbers, but the industry standard is probably 80% of people reading your newsletter will do it on their phone. Right, so you want something that's formatted, that it adapts, and the proper software will do that for you. So this is an example of how my newsletter looks like on desktop, but there is a preview on mobile. On a very small screen, this is what it's going to look like. So try it out. Make sure that you line up things correctly and that it looks nice on a cell phone. And again, that's why it's important to have the right software. Don't just do it with Gmail. Another thing, this is maybe a more advanced trick. Some people will have their phone or their computer in dark mode by default, so they'll prefer to have the background black and the font in white. So the proper software will handle this correctly, right? So you want to make sure your logo shows correctly on the dark background, and that the fonts and the colors you use are showing correctly. So this is something that little trick you can double check. I would call this more an advanced trick, but some people will have their email client in dark mode by default, and if they can't read your newsletter, well, that's a lost opportunity. So here we have a little photo, a little introduction about what we're going to talk about, a little bit of emoji, not too much, but a little bit is fun and engaging, and then you're going to have your different topics, right? So here we have some group classes, so we're providing some updates around our program. We can also scarcity is always a good thing, showing people that your program is popular and that there's almost no spots left, right? So scarcity and a sense of urgency drive people to sign up, right? So and be proud. If 80% of your classes are full, show it, right? Obviously they can't sign up for them, but they will see that your program is successful. Obviously you're going to have buttons and call to action, so don't be shy with adding everywhere you can call to action. So a button to enroll now, or book a trial, or meet this teacher. You can easily add buttons. I'll show that in a minute, and have self-booking links to Opus One IO, for example, where people can just open that link and they'll be able to sign up to your class. Here we have a art and wine festival that we're going to be attending. You can embed videos as well. So what happens is the video is not embedded itself, so it's not like you're sending people hundreds of megabytes of data and pissing them off. It's actually just an image that they understand is when they click on it, they're going to see a video, and then it takes them to YouTube where the video is hosted, for example. So call to actions, buttons, photos, some recital updates. And I'll talk about the template at the end. You're going to reuse the same template with your key social media links, your locations, your phone number. A lot of people will check their email to email you back. So obviously you want a reply to that goes to your admin team. You want to make sure your address, your phone numbers, and everything is up to date. And this is also something that if your software is doing things correctly, should embed automatically. So Opus One IO does that for you. You have a default copyright, the name of your business, a message you can customize that says you are receiving this because you or your dependents or one of your child is enrolled at our school, or you subscribe to our mailing list, right? So this is a legal or best practice requirements. Why am I receiving this? And always an unsubscribe link, right? So this will be added automatically to allow people to unsubscribe from your newsletter, right? So that's one example. I want to show a couple that are interesting. When you have a new teacher, right? So we just hired this great new cello teacher, and we're promoting him, and we put a trial link, and you can set up with Opus One IO a dedicated trial link for that teacher or for that instrument, right? So when we're promoting that teacher, we recorded a short video where they introduce themselves, we give a little bit about their background, and then we put a link where people can click. I love that. And then boom, they can go ahead and book a trial. We filled up that teacher's schedule in less than a couple of months, and people can just go ahead and book a trial directly with that teacher, right? So very, very interesting. So do that on a regular basis. You're going to have new teachers, and think about it. You're going to have prospects or customers that have been waiting for a spot to open up. Maybe all your cello teachers were full and they couldn't sign up, but now they see, oh, they have a new cello teacher. Oh, he looks fun. Let's go have a trial with them, right? So call to action, image, some text, call to action always. And then feel good stories, right? So we have a great feel good story with one of our cello student here. We have another one here that I wanted to show you. I think it's here. This is something I'm very proud of. This is a kid that took our Music for Young Children program back in 2019, and now he's at ABRSN grade 8. He's been with us for close to 9 or 10 years. He's won some competitions, and he's going to be performing at Carnegie Hall. And these are, and you see we have a photo with a kid with a teacher. I think that this may have been him a few years ago when he started. You can do a little interview. You can record it as a video. These are great little stories about your school that parents can be very proud of. Also, I want to point out something is that don't include the student's last name, right? That's you want to anonymize the data a little bit when you send those updates, and especially when you're featuring a kid. Always ask for parents' permission, right? Make sure you say, is that okay if we feature you on our newsletter? They will be proud, and most of them say yes. Sometimes they're very private. They might say no, and then, of course, don't do it. Again, your software should allow you also to track per student if they allow you to use their photos for marketing purposes. So that's something you want to definitely keep track of and avoid, obviously, featuring.
What we did was we just had when they first signed up, and it's built into Opus, but it's just like, video and image waiver, which basically just allows us to use it. But even then, if we were featuring a student or we were doing, like you said, like the spotlight right here, where kind of like, we might do a video, I would definitely do a sit down with the parents and the student and like interview style and just really just honoring them. We would get another one just because we're kind of featuring them more. But we were very photo centric. So our newsletters had tons of photos, and I can show an example if you want, but like tons of photos of kids in lessons, earning awards, all that kind of stuff, because that's what parents and moms especially want to see.
Exactly. Yeah. And actually, when you make it too polished, it looks a little bit too much
Right.
marketing-y. Sometimes people want to see a raw video of happy kids. I think you had a lot of great videos that you record after your recitals, right? If I remember right, you had people recording kids at recitals, and you would feature them in ads.
We
and
did
newsletters,
every
right?
single recital. We did from the stage. I would actually talk about this, but I pulled is all theater, right? And there's some value to this, right? So I pulled out $100 Amazon gift card, and I was literally bribing them, right? I would be like, who wants this? Who wants this card, right? It's especially, looking at everybody, like flashing this $100 gift card in front of them, and of course everyone's like, I want the card, I want the card. All you got to do is, you see Johnny over there, I have a teacher or a staff person, whatever. They'd be over off to the side of the stage with a little camera, a little, ring light. Go talk to them and just tell them how much you love your teacher. That's it. That's all you got to do. Tell them how much you love your teacher. I'd get 70 to 80, sometimes over 100 testimonials in one weekend of recitals, and people scramble. And what they would do is and I didn't give it away to them. I said, one person gets it, but in order to get it, you'll be entered into a drawing to get it, over there for all the people that share their story. It works so well. It's crazy. But I will contend, I think, because I tried it both ways, I tested this. I used to just say, hey, I have an Amazon card. If you want it, go over here. And I didn't get as many. But when I pulled it out of my pocket and I showed it to them and I said, who wants it? Right now they're raising their hand. They say they want it. Now all of a sudden it's like they're subconsciously committing to doing it even before I even asked them. There's power in that.
Tricky, but that's a good one. I'm going to try that.
It really works.
Everybody should do that at their recitals.
And that's something you can add to these newsletters, right? So like you could take like the top 5 or 10 testimonials and at like your newsletter after the recital, talk about it. Your newsletter leading up to a recital to get people to sign up for the next one. Now you've got testimonials that you can use to get more people to sign up for the recital. So yeah, it's all good.
So next I want to show how to create a template very quickly, but I also want to point out a little fun thing is I've had many people sometime on our Facebook group saying, hey, I don't know what to put in a newsletter. You guys have any advice on whatever? And you can ask ChatGPT. It's actually pretty good. I asked ChatGPT, generate a music school newsletter template for Opus Music Studio. And here's a template with some, you don't have to use it word for word, obviously, but it gives you a lot of ideas, upcoming events, personal message from the owner, student spotlight, teacher corner, practice challenge, announcements, new classes, policy reminders, student news, music aspiration of the month, stay connected, your social media links. So you can literally get ChatGPT to generate your newsletter for you. And you can just say, here is 3 bullet points, and I want to talk about these things, and it will generate a very nice template for you. So that's another example. If you don't know where to start, you can definitely start with that.
We did, because we were very active on Facebook, in your Facebook page, we had the most popular Facebook page of the month. And it was easy to find. You just go into your, the business side of your Facebook and just look at the one that had the most engagement, and then take that photo, because usually it's a photo. It's always a photo, right? Take the photo and then put it in your Now you have another section. And we did that every single month. Our most popular Facebook post. And it was always some kid holding some prize that they won. We also did a coloring contest every single month. And then we would take a picture of the winner and their little creation, and we got a local business to sponsor the prize. So, like an ice cream cone or something from a local kid-friendly business. So good cross promotion there. And then we posted that every single month in the newsletter. So just little things like that.
It shows happy kids, right? It shows people why they're at your school, right? And another thing that we do that's similar is we have group classes. So we use mostly group classes to funnel in beginners, and it's not a big chunk of our business, but we do group classes. And what we do is systematically at the end of the group class, we do a little graduation ceremony. So they get a little hat, like those graduate hats,
I love that.
And they have they get a little certificate, and they take a happy photo with their teacher. And then we use these photos either for ads or in the newsletter, and we can show the last group class graduated and now the new group class is starting, and you want your kid to look happy. And sometimes we also give them an Opus One t-shirt. So you have these photos of happy kids with their certificates. Make sure you blur out the names though. You don't want to put their full name on your newsletter, but blur out the name and feature those happy kids that graduated the class and are ready to go to the next class or to go to the next private lesson. Great content that you can put in your newsletter. And again, you can train your staff and your teachers to get those graduations, those photos done, and getting those content, for your newsletters. So I want to show very quickly how to create a template. This is going to look very similar in other software, but in Opus One IO, you if you have Plus, you can go and set up your you have a campaigns, but we're gonna create a template first. And I really recommend to set up a template that you can reuse on a regular basis. So I have one that's already set up, but I'm gonna create one from scratch. So this is an example I quickly put together. So you're gonna have your logo, a header, a photo, some text, maybe another photo, and like I showed, like a call to action, and obviously maybe a few other things. So how do you get there, right? So it's very simple. You go to templates, and you got to create a new email template. And it comes already pre-set up with a very basic structure that has a placeholder for your logo, some text, a divider, and some social media links, and this footer that already exists that you can also re-add from I think it's here. And this is important. You want to have that unsubscribe link and so the name of your school and why they're receiving this. This is even legally required now. It's not just a best practice. So you're going to set up you have also your block of social media. So you're going to basically usually feature, let's say you have a Facebook, a YouTube channel, and Instagram. So you're going to put the links there. So here very quickly, I'm going to click here and upload my logo. Maybe not too big. So let's make it a little bit. If you don't know where to start with text, you can also use AI. We actually have a little AI embedded here. You can also use ChatGPT, but let's come up with a little paragraph about explain why recitals are important for music schools. Make it fun and engaging. And from there, you just select the text and you ask AI to expand it for you, right? So AI can do spelling fixes, can help you expand text, fix it, improve it, and make it breathe a little bit. So I haven't read it, but again, you can do this with ChatGPT or any other AI out there. It's very good for this kind of thing. Also, keep in mind, as I said, people will see that email on sometime on a mobile phone. So you want to make sure it looks nice on mobile. So make it spaced and make sure you use a layout that looks good on mobile. And let's just add a couple of things just for the sake of it. You can add videos. So let's add a video here. This is going to be a link to YouTube. So you can just paste the link here and it will look like a link. You can have images. So if you don't know what to use for images, you can also use AI to generate images if you want. But we embed also some stock photos here. So let's say you want to show a cellist, let's pick this one here, right? So you can have access easily to stock photos and make them more or less big. There's a lot of settings. You can set up the style. You can organize things. Let's add a little header as an example here, and we're gonna center it and call it September 2025. If I can spell correctly, September. Oops. Okay. What else? So call to actions, right? So you want to have those buttons. So let's say we're introducing a new teacher here. When you have the teacher's bio, you can add a button right there. Don't make them scroll all the way to the bottom or send them to your website. Send them straight to, book a trial with Michael. Let's say that's your new teacher, right? Make the button. Give the button a color that's your typical branding color or your accent color, right? I'm gonna use a bright red for my school, and then and you're gonna set up that URL here, right? So for example, I have here a self-booking link, an Opus One IO self-booking link for a cello lesson with a teacher. You can set those up in Opus One IO under your cell booking link, and our support team can help you with that. And you use that link
You
as
just
is,
copy the URL.
and and you just put it in your, and it will open a new tab to that link, as you can see here. So when people click on it, they can book straight from their phone and book a trial with a teacher. So again, we talked about all kinds of things. I showed some examples. And you're gonna usually save that template. All right, so let's call it my newsletter template, and then maybe give it a tag so you can find it. This is actually a template. And you save it, and then you reuse it, right? So you start from that template and you duplicate it, and you create your October newsletter, your November newsletter, etc., etc. So you keep adding that content, and usually what you want to do is you want to set those up a couple of weeks in advance. So start having your admin collect content, set up that newsletter, maybe you review it, and then you're going to create a campaign to schedule when that newsletter goes out, right? So we make it easy for you. You can just create a campaign right from here, or you can go directly into the campaigns section here. So I'm going to create a campaign for that newsletter that we just created, creating the campaign, and we're going to call it, this is, let's say, September newsletter. I really can't, September newsletter. And you're going to schedule it, right? So when is a good time to schedule a newsletter, for example? There's different school of thoughts on this. I think it matters. It's not a huge deal, but maybe schedule it maybe around lunchtime when people are more likely to read it, or maybe in the morning morning might be tricky because they're gonna have a lot of emails when they wake up. So maybe schedule it around lunchtime or mid-afternoon, maybe a good time. So pick a time that you feel is right for your audience. And set the date. So let's say we're preparing this to be sent on October 15th, right? So we have a couple of weeks to work on it. We're creating that campaign, and now the campaign is set up, right? So we need to do a couple more things, right? So we need to set a subject. So we're going to call it Great New Cello Teacher. Maybe add like I said, you can add an emoji. Right, so a little emoji. You can add more things. There is ways you can also include the client's name, the student that's being targeted, or their parents, by using the curly braces. That's a strategy. There are other emails that might be more important to do that. I don't know if I would do a, hey John, we have a great new cello teacher, for a newsletter. Up to you. I don't know if you have any thoughts on that, but there is other cases where targeting and putting the name of the client may be helpful, like maybe for a follow-up campaign. But for a newsletter, I would probably keep it generic.
I think that's probably, I would agree with that. People do like seeing their name.
Right.
There is something psychological about that when you name somebody. In here, in campaigns, can you split test something? Can you say, send A and B, that kind of thing? Or is that built into this?
You could create two campaigns. I don't know if you have an easy way to really split your audience in two, like two kind of generic groups separately. But you could definitely month with and without, right? And see, the open rate, the click rate.
That's what I would do.
And it's easy as just typing hey and then using a merge tag, right? So you have the client first name or the recipient first name. This is something that a little bit specific to Opus. The client first name is going to be the kid's name because you're targeting the kid, but usually it's the parent that gets the email. So you might want to be sure, you might want to use the recipient first name instead of the client's first name. So that's ultimately who received the email, right? Now there is other cases that we'll talk at some other time when you want to say, hey John, Tom's lessons are going great. So John is the recipient, Tom is the student. So you want to separate those.
Yeah.
So like this is something we'll show when we talk about drip campaign, when you want to do a follow-up after a trial. Say, hey, John, like the dad, or hey, Jane, the mom, Tom had a blast at their private piano trial lesson, so you can use all these and create like follow-up campaigns with complex merge tags and even display conditions. It can get pretty complicated, but we said we're going to keep it simple today. Just talk about the newsletter and how easy it is and how low-hanging fruit it is. So keep it simple. Just start with a newsletter. You don't have to make it complicated, right? So this is how you do it. Now, the second thing that's super important, and I'm going to save this template here, is to set up the audience, right? So there is a lot of different ways you can target. And again, if you use a MailChimp or an ActiveCampaign, you have to synchronize that with your booking or scheduling platform. In Opus, it's all together, so that's a lot of value there. For a newsletter, it's basically going to be everybody. So the criteria is very simple here, right? You could create very complex targeting criteria, but in this case, we're just going to call it everyone and include everyone. As simple as that. And here it's going to basically calculate how many people that is. So this is in my test environment, there's only 500. For my actual school, everyone is, I think, 14,000 people, right? So that basically is going to grow over time. Over the years, you're going to have more and more and more and more people. Of course, we automatically skip people who haven't subscribed. So if they haven't subscribed, we're not sending them marketing emails anymore, right? So don't worry about this number might include all your customers ever, but those that haven't subscribed will not receive your newsletter. So they won't get pissed off, right? So don't worry about that. And so you're going to see total audience. We show you a preview here. Obviously, if you do a more targeted email, but the topic today is a broad newsletter, right? We'll talk about how to target certain students and do retention, check-ins, and other things. That's for another day. And then once you're done with your newsletter, basically you set up the audience, which is everybody. You have your template, you scheduled it. It's going to be in a draft status. And then when you're ready to send it, you just got to schedule it and confirm that it's going to be ready to go. You can even say, send it right now. I'm ready to go. Usually I would recommend to maybe send a test email. So send yourself and your staff a test email. Check that all the links are working, that there's no broken link, so that all the images are displaying correctly, all that stuff. So you can send yourself a test email and say, whoever is in the system, you can send them a test email. And then when you're ready to go, schedule it. And here you're going to see, I'm going to talk about this in a minute, but normally you don't see this. This is because I'm in the test environment. You can then schedule the time and confirm. And at that time, you're done. The system will automatically send that email at the scheduled time. It could be in the middle of the night. It could be whenever you want, whenever you set it. So that's how you set up the template, set up the campaign, set up your audience. And then let's talk a little bit about what happens next, because I found that very often people just fire and forget. They send a newsletter, I sent it, done. But there's actually a few things that you might want to care about. So let's take a look at a previous newsletter. So first, you're going to have here an activity tab that shows you what happened. So you're basically going to see here, your admin that set up the newsletter. You can see that Erin set it up a couple of weeks ahead of time. And then you may have people that actually unsubscribe. It happens. Out of 14,000 people, here we have maybe like a dozen people that unsubscribe. That's fine. That's normal. And there's also a report tab that tells you how many people ultimately received the emails, how many unique emails were received, how many opened, how many clicked on the email, how many unsubscribed. So we have 19 unsubscribes here. It's very for more than 5,000 actual emails. That's very low and correct and expected. There is certain things to say around opens and views. If you Google it, there's a lot of email platforms now that they open the email for you in the background to check for viruses, to check for spam and other things. So it will count as a view. So sometimes people say for marketers you cannot rely on that value anymore.
Oh, interesting.
But this is a little bit more specific. These are people that actually loaded the content of the email and it was actually opened more than once. So this is a maybe more accurate value here. And then out of all the links you're gonna have in your email, we're actually tracking how many times those links were clicked. Right, so you can go check. Okay, we sent this email. Thousands many people got it. There were some opt-outs. Obviously, that have subscribed in the past, and I want to see whether my email actually resonated, right? So how many people actually clicked on the links, right? So these are things you want to kind of monitor. We talked a little bit about earlier how to do an A/B test, right? So maybe one month you send one template, and the next month you send another template, and then you see how many more clicks you get in one case or the other. So, and then do what you can with it. Obviously, you can tweak and refine, but if you don't measure, you cannot improve, right? So you're going to give you a lot of data here that measures how many clicks and what links were being clicked in your email. So it's worth checking out. And then, you're going to see here, I can't scroll down because you're going to see some private information, but you will see that, many people have actually signed up for trial lesson with that teacher. So that newsletter ultimately was helpful, right? So check out the reporting after. Try to understand what those metrics mean. Try to get familiar with them over time. Don't get overwhelmed if it's too much at first. It's okay as long as your newsletter got sent. But try to measure, repeat, improve. There is industry standard. You can ask ChatGPT. But if you send an email to about 5,000 unique emails and more than half actually open and then read the email, that's very good. And then you had maybe like 116 clicks. That's actually pretty good, right? There is certain standards and benchmarks you can check against. Another thing is you can have also bounces. So bounces are basically emails that are not good anymore, right? So these are not people that actually unsubscribe. These are just bad emails in your system, right? So if you do that, I'm going to show you in a test environment. You can go to your Opus One. Actually, not this one. Sorry. Let's use my test environment so I don't show you real customers here. You can go and show emails that have bounced, right? Hard bounce or soft bounce. Usually hard bounce are the ones that are really invalid. And you might want to clear those eventually, do a little bit of janitorial work. And these are probably emails that were mistyped in the first place. And they may not even receive their receipts, their lesson reminders. So it's a good practice to go check for emails that may have bounced and may be incorrect. So that's kind of a high level how to set up a newsletter, the campaign, setting up the audience. I want to point out one last thing. If you use Opus One IO and it's the same thing if you use other email platforms, you need to what we call validate your domain. So what this does essentially is it lets your email platform or here Opus One IO send emails on behalf of you, right? So you need to do some technical setup to allow this. Every email platform needs this, so it's pretty universal. We have a support team that's expert in this and can help you, right? So if you're using Opus One IO Plus and you haven't set up or validated your email domain, so go to your business settings under business here, then integrations tab, and make sure you have your domain name here verified. And if you don't, go and add it and contact our support team. They will help you set up your DNS with these cryptic values here, and that will allow you to send those newsletters and more with Opus One IO Plus.
That's great. Even if you don't have to go crazy with this idea. If all you do is just go into your Opus One Plus account and fill it, create a very like Sam, you just created a really basic template. Like you can get a lot more complicated than that, obviously. But even if you just do a basic template where you show some photos of kids, maybe you make an announcement, maybe you say, something that's going on in your school right now. In all of our newsletters, we're always talking about what's coming, like the next recital or the next event or something like that. We always put dates. You don't have to be very complicated with this. This is one of those things, because the newsletter is an ongoing conversation. You don't have to do everything the first time. Your first newsletter, I wish I probably have it on my hard drive somewhere. My very first newsletter that I ever did, it's so bad. It's really bad. I had like stick figures, as images. I mean, it was horrible. But you know what? It was my first one, and I sent it out, and people liked it.
You got to start somewhere. You got to start slow, start easy, and get better over time. It's a low hanging fruit. Like we said, if you're not doing it, you should be doing it. Don't set the bar too high for yourself. Start with something basic. Get your staff involved, do it on a regular basis, and keep improving. Another thing I want to add here that's also important, and this is just data from my school, is that if you're using a good software, you're going to have a massive database of emails over time, right? This is just, from, these are all the news that we sent. You see 2 a month, and you see the audience has increased between February and September. So that's like half of the year, a little bit over half of the year. Went from 13,000 emails to 14 to 15,000. So that's 1,000 new emails that are being added to your system. I mean, we have a pretty large school, but every time you have people signing up for trials or a new prospect, you're adding it, or people who walk in the school and you take their email information or they call the school. So you have that massive database of prospects, old customers, current customers that are there, and you're not using it, right? So send them an email on a regular basis. That's probably the easiest thing you should start with.
Absolutely. Yeah, it's an ever-growing list, right? And it gets refined with opt-outs, but you're growing. You should be at least growing that list. So yeah, again, I really want to come back to this thing of like, it doesn't have to be perfect. It just has to get going. And so the big thing here is that whether you're using Opus One Plus or whether you have some other platform that you're using, just get something out and start this process. You will see a benefit. It might not be immediate, but over time you will start to get better student retention. You'll get students from it. It will overall benefit your school. And so, and then Sam, we're going to talk more later at a later point about campaigns and follow-ups. Like, it's super important to set those up and get those going.
So that's the basic. We talked about newsletter,
Yeah.
simple email, regular basis, send it to everybody. And then when you get better at this, you can start doing what we call drip campaign or sequenced email. That's more complicated to set up, and we'll have another episode where we talk about it, where you set up follow-up campaigns for your different stages of your customer lifecycle, or whether they're existing students, you send them a 30, 60, 90-day check-in asking for Google reviews, or whether you follow up on your prospect that had a trial but they never signed up, or older students that you may want to come back. So that's more complicated, but at least start with a simple newsletter, and then you can level up to the
So
next
we'll walk
next
you
level.
through all that stuff. But for now, put this in motion. Big thing, again, coming back, just build one. Just do one. Don't think about all the future newsletters. Just do one newsletter and get it out. And then from there, you can start building it. So, Sam, thank you for being on here. This was very informative, as usual. And I look forward to doing more here. All right.
Sounds good. Thank you.